She's just like, you know, you're the first Bangladeshi to show at London Fashion Week, and I was like, what? And then that's when it hit me. I was like, oh my god, fuck. This is where like I just wanted to do a cute little show and like start a brand. And then that's when obviously then because the question she lined it up with was just like, how do you feel with the weight on your shoulder now? And I was like, what? I don't want this. I was like,
hi everyone. Thank you so much for coming today and to celebrate 2 years of Dhaga. It has been a wonderful journey getting here, celebrating South Asian artists and designers and creating space for all of us to evolve. And this year we're starting something new, and that is doing artist interviews. And I'm really glad to have Rahemur Rahman here to be our first guest.
thank you.
So Rahemur is an artist, filmmaker, and fashion designer who designed this outfit that I'm wearing today. And yeah, it fits me perfectly. It looks like it's tailor-made. He's the first British Bangladeshi fashion designer to show at London Fashion Week in 2019. And it's a pure coincidence that London Fashion Week is this week.
It's happening right now.
Yeah. So that makes it even more special. And he's also the first British Bangladeshi fashion designer to have his work shown at and acquired at the V&A Museum for the Fashioning Masculinities exhibition. And he is now also joint first-year leader at CSM and director of training and development at the British Bangladeshi Fashion Council. And a lot of amazing stuff. And he's also, if that wasn't enough, making a documentary about 4 Hijras in South Asia titled Body of Our Own. So yeah, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me, honestly.
So let's start with London Fashion Week, because obviously it's happening right now. And that was 2019. So how long ago was that?
6 years, maybe? Or was it? Yeah, maths are wrong, but yeah, 6 years.
Yeah. So what was that like? And what was the journey leading up to that? Because was that like your first big break?
No, it was really weird. So before London Fashion Week happened, I was approached by the British Council to represent Bangladesh at the International Fashion Showcase. And then that started in like October. And then I had no plans to show at London Fashion Week. And then I made the collection, went to Bangladesh, started working with the artisans. And then I came back, spoke to the British Fashion Council. And then they were just like, we'll figure something out. And then that's when it really launched. But for me, it's so weird. I remember it being London Fashion Week, but I was going through a horrible time at the same time. But I think it was one of those things where what I've learned is my best work comes when I'm the saddest, which is so weird.
I feel that.
So like it's weird because obviously even as you're saying all those things, I remember those moments. But in those moments, remembering everyone who was around me, who was just like, "Come on, get up. Okay, cool, you can do this. You've got one more interview, then we're gonna go home." And I was like, but it was a fab moment. Like it was a lot of work, and I just remember if it wasn't for the community, who a lot of them are in this room, like it wouldn't have happened. And it was at the time I didn't realize that I was the first Bangladeshi. I just wanted to do a show. Like some of the images are coming up here. It's like it's actually that show right there. And it was I did it in Brick Lane. London Fashion Week was happening at Truman Brewery, which obviously is just down the road. And that felt really icky for me because I was like, wait, why am I going to like the white side of Brick Lane? So I have no idea why. I like looked around the room. Obviously, I knew it was always going to be brown, but like I was like, yeah, just like because everyone was like going to the white side of Brick Lane, and I was like, no, I need to make them come to the other side. And it's just literally across the road, but the vibe is so different.
Yeah.
And so like I grew up in community centers. Like that's where I learned how to do fashion. It wasn't from my mom. It wasn't from nobody from my family encouraged it. Nor was it really encouraged at school. So it was in a youth club, and that happened. So I made everybody go back to my youth club. I made the youth club look very different so that then people could see what a South Asian space could look like. And I did a show 4 times that day so that then everyone could come see it. Because for me, it wasn't about doing it for the fashion scene. It was to be honest, for doing it for everyone, all of us. It was, there was like, all the models were all like, from the spectrum of mass presenting, they were all over it. Like one of my friends who's a bodybuilder, one of them works in a garage, one is like a musician. It's just because I wanted to show the spectrum of what masculinity in South Asian spaces can look like. And doing that show, I remember straight afterwards, there was an interview I did with Vogue. And then she said to me in that interview, she was just like, you know, you're the first Bangladeshi to show at London Fashion Week. And I was like, what? And then that's when it hit me. I was like, oh my God, fuck. This is where like, I just wanted to do a cute little show and like start a brand. And then that's when obviously then, because the question she lined it up with was just like, how do you feel with the weight on your shoulder now? And I was like, what? I don't want this. I was like, but it was a very exciting time, and I'm very grateful for it, because I genuinely believe in all that stuff where like the best stuff is really made in the roughest places, and I stand by it. Obviously, I look back now, I critique it. The fuck, like I'm like, there's so many things I could have done better, but I tried and I showed up.
I love that. Can I get a show of hands from here? Who's kind of lived or grown up in Brick Lane or around that area? Anyone? Yeah, not that many people.
Yeah, townless all day.
So for anyone that, well, most of the people that don't know, can we talk a little bit about what it was like growing up in Brick Lane? And, you know, there's a lot about, you know, saving Brick Lane and what that's all about.
So for me, I actually grew up on the Isle of Dogs with my family there, because like all of my aunts, all of my mum's sisters and all of their family were in like East London, like they were in like Shadwell, Whitechapel. I was on the Isle of Dogs, which is why I kind of speak a little bit weirder than them, because obviously everyone else, like obviously everyone who's met Bengalis in East London, there's a certain twang that they have to their accent. And I didn't really learn that accent until I first went to Mothershire in year 7 and 8, and then I went to St. Green Boys School. And then that's when I was really immersed in the culture. And I remember like my mum would take us to our nan's house, which was in Brick Lane. And that was a staple from like a baby. And that's when I really fell in love with Brick Lane. Like for me, Brick Lane was like family. Like you would go in the summer, like kids who weren't even your relatives were suddenly your cousins, because everyone was going there for summer holidays, and everyone was in Chixon Estate. And obviously everyone who knows that there's a place where there's a football pitch, and obviously we used to call it the Ghat. And it was just like the hole, and that's where all the gangsters would like literally fight. And I just would like to be honest, it's there in that photo in the background, and I love it. Like I used to love going there, and this just shows you how East London I grew up. But like I used to, all of us, brothers, everyone, we used to go to that place in Brick Lane and watch like all the Bengalis fight each other just for banter. And like the kids are all there like watching it. Everyone's just kind of like, haha, this is so fun. But like for me, that was all community. Like, and it was like going to an absolute random neighbor's house to have like curry, and just like that for me was everything. And I stopped doing that when I was like 14, 15, because I thought I was like too good for family events. So then that's when I stopped really going. But then now that I'm older, I'm like, why did I stop? And now I'm going back as an adult, and I did a project called Rahemur Rahman that made me fall in love with Brick Lane even more. And the whole idea of like saving it as well, like that for me is everything, because I'm just like, there's so much heritage there. And I think to be honest, it's all us. It's South Asians, it's Bengalis, it's everyone. It's our job to make sure it stays alive. I love seeing people are going to eat at the community cafes. Like obviously I shout out Grand Bangla every day. Like that place is a staple for me just because I love the chef. But I think it's our job to go back and make sure that there's still commerce at these places and critique them. Because I think a lot of the times Brick Lane is like run by very old men, very old Bengali men who, to be honest, can't take advice from queer presenting people, or let alone a woman. You know what I mean? Like they won't even take advice from their wives, even though they're the reasons why they have these businesses. But to be honest, that's what I really want to save. I want to save our legacy there, so that then when we come in, and obviously they're going to die one day, we'll come in and change that whole thing, and there'll be a Dhaga art shop. There's, all of us are going to have like a little thing on Brick Lane, because that's home. And obviously we've seen so many areas like that all over the world completely shift, but it's generationally, it has to move. And obviously there was a talk of a Westfield happening there. And it's funny because everyone who wanted to say Brick Lane hated it, but all of my cousins who were in Brick Lane were like, yeah, I want the Zara next to my house. Like, yeah, I want Westfield. I want all of that stuff near my house. And I was like, and that's where I kind of like was stuck in a dichotomy. I was just like, oh, okay, so like you live here and you don't want this. Like you want all the uncles to go away, which is completely understandable. Like the uncles are not very nice to the young people in the area. So I was like, fair, but I was like, it's about the legacy. And I think sometimes it's not about whether everyone thinks it's right or wrong. It's just about protecting history. And that's where I stand with it. So that was such a long-winded answer. Gaze, I do like circles all the time with conversations. It's like
one of your collections, Children of the Raccoon. What was the story behind that, and like how growing up in Brick Lane has kind of influenced that?
To be honest, that whole collection first started out through having conversation. Obviously, I know you said you're from Tower Hamlets. There's a few other people from Tower Hamlets. Like all the Bengalis that I knew growing up, their grandparents or to be honest, like my parents were working in the rag trade. I watched them make stuff for like Burberry, Aquascutum in the house. And obviously at the age, I didn't realize they were big brands. They were just like scraps of fabric in a room for me. And I remember playing with it. And that's when I realized I was like, all of us have grown up. We're literally children of the rag trade. And all of us have like made something with watching our parents endure literal slave labor. And we just had to just kind of go, okay, well, that happened. And like it's a weird space of like grief because you like see your parents like literally go through slave labor and you're like, okay, so what am I going to do with that? What have they done with it? And what was sad for me is seeing other friends, families do something with it. And my dad, he still hasn't managed to make his way out. Like he still works in the factory in Commercial Road. Like everyone's always like, oh, slave labor. I was like, no, slave labor's literally on Commercial Road. Like you want to go see a factory where all Bengalis are getting paid under the like going rate. Like go and see the factories opposite the Troxy. Like there's 4 back to back. And I think that's what I was doing it for. It's about like that legacy of that story is that we're trying to do something with the fragments of history that was given to us, but it's still there. Like we haven't progressed that far. And obviously I say we because obviously it's a big generalization, but just there's still loads of Bengalis in East London living below the poverty line. And I grew up below the poverty line. So I know what these young kids are going to go through. And it was easier then because there was less of a stress. But now I can't even imagine. And obviously this is why I work in the schools and stuff like that because I'm just like, these kids need hope. And I was like, and I was given hope from a very young age because of that. But to be honest, the whole collection, obviously I know you're wearing it as well, it was an homage to them. And this was what went into the V&A. Actually, to be honest, the exact look you're wearing. um, but it's because of that. It's because about the story of legacy in that area.
And you talk about redefining made in Bangladesh. Love to hear a bit more about your thoughts on that. And having, grown up here and also been to Bangladesh, and you work with artisans there, what's your relationship to it? And like, how are we, trying to show that, these clothes are made, like how clothes are made?
To be honest, it all started. So I graduated from St. Martin's in 2014. Obviously, I started the brand in 2019, so you know that's how long it took me to even gain confidence to start doing stuff. But in 2014, obviously, that was just after Rana Plaza happened. And I remember, so I was interning at Louis Vuitton when it actually happened. And everyone was trying to ask me questions about it. And I was like, the fuck do I know? I was like, I've never been to Bangladesh. I was like, I grew up in East London. My parents had no money to go nowhere. So I don't know what Bangladesh looks like. I don't even know what Sylhet looks like, let alone. So is that, I think for me, that felt really weird. And obviously, that's when I realized to be honest, at that age, I learned what representation was. Because I was like, everyone's looking at me to represent Bangladeshi people. And I was like, okay, it's not my job, but obviously if people are asking me, then I should know. I need to be of knowledge. So that's when I started to learn. And I saw what was coming out of Bangladesh in terms of fashion, the impact on the climate, sustainability, all of those things. And just when you research those things, it's easy just to kind of make comment. I wanted to be part of the solution. So that's when I started to build my final collection, and I started to work with the artisans in Bangladesh because I was like, because this is in 2014, so it's still fresh. Fashion Revolution had just launched. Like everyone's like using Rana Plaza. Everyone's talking about Bangladesh every day about like all these people dying. I'm just like, but what are you doing about it? Like you're literally just stating these facts. And I was like, but loads of people died. Like it's not enough for you to just talk about loads of people dying and be like, hey, so I've started an organization based off of that, and now I'm not going to help them. So like that's what I really wanted to counter, which is why even the collection was called Made in Bangladesh and everything like that, because I wanted people to see the artistry that can come out of Bangladesh. And to be honest, it's not even just Bangladesh, of Bengal. Like and that goes across so many different like cultures as well, because we are known to be artisans in everything, in fabric, in dyes, in embroideries, in weave, in furniture, architecture. We are icons in that. And I just wanted to throw that into the mix while everybody else is talking about fast fashion, H&M, Zara, and actually that be the conversation around Bangladesh. This was going to be different. People were going to know the names of the artisans. And to be honest, that hasn't changed. Like I'm 6 years on and I'm still fucking screaming about artisans in Bangladesh, but it's because of that. It's because I just don't want people to look at Bangladesh and think of fast fashion. People still do. They can't change that, but I hope I'm making a difference.
Yeah. And so your big thing is block printing, right? Can we talk a little bit about how you were drawn to that and what that kind of is for like anyone that doesn't know? Briefly.
Tell me if I go on for too long because I'm a waffler too. So the block print initially started out. So I went to the VNA initially to research Bangladeshi textiles because obviously where else are you going to go? Because they've taken everything. So which I tell them to their face, and obviously everyone they know that's why they work with me because they want to make it better. But it's that thing of like, so I went and I saw this insane block print. It was like 8 different colors. An artisan made it. It was like scraps. It was like fragments of a material that I just survived. And I looked at it and I was like, I want this. This is what I want. And I took an image of it, took it back to Bangladesh and worked with the artisans. And I was just like, can we do this? And obviously, you can't. Like, obviously, Queen Victoria did that horrible thing which cut off all the artisans' fingers straight after so that William Morris and all those arseholes could have this like stunning fabric. And then I was just like, okay, cool. So we're going to do that. That's our mission. Our mission is to get all of our work into museums so we surpass the level of what they colonized from us, that then no longer is the conversation about this is the best, is that no, you're going to see contemporary like Bengal fashion and we're going to be better than what you stole from us. And to be honest, that's still the aim and it's still the ambition, which is why this block print came out as like 4 colors. I did it in a silk the season after, and I was just like, we've got to keep pushing, and that will still be the premise of it. But that's where the block print was like the aim was. The pattern itself, to be honest, I kind of like, I was on an airplane. The first time I was going to Bangladesh, I was 28, never been before. British Council paid for everything. So I was like, cool, I'm going to make the most of it. On the airplane, I was drawing all these patterns. I had all these images of all my family portraits. And I was like looking at the pattern on the wallpaper, my mum's saris, and just like amalgamating them together. I wanted to be like a mashup of all of them. So it ended up in this like weird onion vagina print, which which I kind of like. This is a little bit more tamed down. The first one had like eyes on it, and everyone thought it was really. I was just like, no, it's because it's staring back at you. Like, yeah, oh look, there you can see it in the background. There's like the eyes on it because I really wanted people to like. I wanted to stare back at people, and I love it. And to be honest, it's become a staple for the brand. Like, feels really weird saying. And yeah, so that's the silk. That's at the 4 colors. But to be honest, I'm waiting to go back and kind of like mesh it up even more because it's not enough to just have one in the museums. I want one in every museum. But to be honest, the best thing for me is that I become the conduit for the artisans. Like, because when you go see this garment, it says my name alongside the artisan's name. So I think a lot of the times, South Asians ourselves too, we love to go to our homeland and just extract. And I think that makes us no different to the white people that we critique all the time. Like, we can't just go back to our home countries and just be like, hey, so I'm going to find some poor people and take some photos and bring it back, and I'm going to make a book and I'm going to sell it. And I'm just like, so no critique, because if anyone's but like that irks me so much. And to be honest, I critique other people, which is why I critique myself so much, which is why I really wanted to do all that. So I forgot the question. I've kind of just rambled.
I forgot the question as well. Yeah. But no, I think it's really important that we critique our own culture and like what we do and critique each other.
Oh my God, we have to.
Yeah.
If we don't critique each other, who the fuck will?
Yeah.
Like, so because obviously I teach at St. Martin's, and I'm just like, if a lot of the students don't have a POC member anyway, let alone somebody who's knowledgeable enough in our culture to critique them. So if you're not going to find it in those educational spaces, mentoring shops, or mentoring programs, it's going to be your peers. Your peers, you have to go to your friend and be like, tell me what's wrong with this. Like, if you were to counsel me, how the fuck would you counsel me with this? And I think that's the sharpest way to get to someone to be like, critique me in the way that I'm presenting my own culture. Because I think it's not enough. Just because we're brown doesn't mean we've got like a free-for-all for our culture. It says something. It says something every single day. We put something on our Instagram. It represents something. And we just have to be very wary of what we're doing with it. Because it's not just us. Like, it's a lot of people. The diaspora is massive.
And with teaching at CSM, what was it like? You studied there and you went back, and what was that experience like? Versus like being a student there and also being a teacher, lecturer.
So when I was a student, obviously, like I was saying, I graduated, Rana Plaza just happened. They didn't really know much. Like, there was no, obviously right now with this position of like the way everyone's trying to decolonize their education, there is certain knowledge that people have around South Asian fashion, Black fashion, like all of that, all of those diasporas are like, and their knowledge, but they didn't have that when I was there. Like, to be honest, there was only 2 brown people, like just brown full stop, of all the 4 years. So that's about 1,000 something students, and there's maybe like 2 that were brown. And to be honest, it's not that different now. But obviously, I know the university is trying to work there hard, but not hard enough. But to be honest, that's why I went back, because I was like, when the job came up, actually, my old tutor passed away, and then the job came up, and then they were just like, "Do you want to go for it?" And I was like, "Well," I was like, and ahhing. To be honest, wasn't sure. And then what really sold it for me was I was doing a project called My Bari, and then when I saw what young people were doing with their identity, I was like, no, I need to go back to that school. I can't be enough just complaining about it. And it's that weird thing. I was like, I have to be part of the solution. So I was like, okay, cool, I'm going to go back. I'm now 4 years in, and I'm like, shit, I'm still here. But the change is happening, because there's students who, like I said, but there's a Bengali student who's on the fashion program now. I've known from a very young age. It's like we have to mentor, we have to form them, we have to build them up to kind of go to these schools and not fight. Fight sounds quite aggressive, but just be resilient in the way that they hold space in those programs. Because it's a lot to be just like the only South Asian. It's a lot to be like a headscarf wearing Muslim girl on a fucking fashion program. And I think it's not even that, because when you're on that program, you're representing so much more beyond. But yeah, that's why I went back, and I'm still there trying to genuinely decolonize that whole place. But I'm one man.
Yeah, I love that. You find a problem, and like you can't just leave it alone.
It's a problem. I'm telling you, it's a problem. Like, my partner's really knows. It's fucking like,
Yeah.
I'll be outside and I'll see people, and he'll be like, "We need to go somewhere." Like, no, but this woman needs my help. Like, how is she gonna get home?
Yeah.
And I'll like, look, yeah, anyway, so that's it. Hold on.
Yeah. No, I love that. And so when I feel like in a lot of like design schools, art schools, like everywhere, probably in the UK, there's very little POC people, let alone like brown people. So what was it like for you when when you were first there? And like, did you do anything like fashion related before you went to CSM? And like, what was it like?
So I'm gonna start. So when I was in secondary school, I was a horrible child. Like, anyone who's from Town Hamlets will know what a Bengali boy in Town Hamlets was like. I'm very different now, but at that time, I went to a youth club in East London called A-Team Arts, and to be honest, that's where I learned fashion. I saw textiles. I saw what freedom could look like in identity. To be honest, she was the first person who made me feel safe in even talking about queerness at a young age, and that's when I was like, okay, cool, this is home. Like, and that's where I learned fashion, and that's what got me into St. Martin's. And to be honest, even while I was at St. Martin's, because they didn't really get what I was trying to do, it was a mashup of like all of my projects were about like sportswear, like stuff that I grew up with. Like, it was all in East London. Most of it was about a mashup of, like, to be honest, like London culture. And it was only in my final year where it really shifted to like artisanal messaging around Bangladeshi craft. But I always went back to that youth club because she was a South Asian woman. She understood the barriers that were there in my life that stopped me from just being able to go to like a fabric shop to buy like 10 meters of calico to twirl. So she would like go and help me. She helped me screen print my whole final collection in the studio. She paid for stuff on days when I like couldn't afford travel. She would help me, and it's those people that I'm just like, yeah, like I want to be that for somebody else, and hopefully I am.
I think you are.
I'm trying.
And you spoke about My Home, My Bari. What was that project about?
So my Bari started out. So when Bangladesh turned 50, Tower Hamlets Council were given a commission. It wasn't that big of a commission, to be honest. But initially, and then so the premise was to do a youth program and do an exhibition. And obviously, me, overachiever, went straight to, okay, well, that's not enough. We need more money because we need to interact with the Brick Lane community. I want to speak to the men. I want to critique them. I want them on video. I want interviews. I want talks. So then obviously then it grew. And then the first My Home, My Bari was like, the premise was to work with young people, work with a researcher. So obviously it was at the Queen Mary University. They would come in and teach them about the legacy of Bangladesh. So like speaking about like Huguenots, and actually like Bangladeshis were here from like the 1600s, to be honest. Like, and but obviously a lot of people just reference it from like 1960s, 70s, but we were here for a long time ago. But getting them to understand that knowledge, the impact of like the partition, there was multiple wars happening in Bangladesh, and just getting them to understand what actually happened and what that felt like. And I think what really brought about was this. To a majority of them were all young girls because I wanted that. But what was really lovely was that then they started to speak with their mums and their grandmas. And there was this one young girl who she spoke to her grandma, and actually I still remember it. She was like, she won't talk to us. Every time we talk about it, will shut down. And I was like, okay, fair. But I was like, don't push her, but just like try to get a documentation of it. Because once your nan's gone, like your nan's gone. I was like, if anything, get her to write you a letter, like something like that. Just have there forever, because what our older generations went through, like especially our nans and our grands, is horrible, horrible. And they just never talk about it. And obviously, understandably so, who the fuck wants to go through their trauma every day? But that's what the project was about. And so then everyone was like I tried to make it lighter. So obviously we were making like wallpaper based off of it, but the main premise was to learn this knowledge and do something. And then it grew with Queen Mary doing walks around Brick Lane, like a Brick Lane Bangladeshi history tour. I got to work with the restaurants, which is where I first met Grand Bangla, because I literally ate at every Bengali restaurant to find the best curry, and then grab it. And obviously they were all part of the program. The aim was to go meet them, speak with them, understand how long these restaurants have also been on Brick Lane. But then what came about was actually learning that their wives had done everything while they had a business. And that's what the next, so obviously when My Home My Bari 2 happened at Museum of the Home, the premise was just the women, because I was like, okay, that's enough about the men, because I was like, so because initially it was an exhibition of this cube space with all the wallpaper, and then on the outside walls were all the images of the men, because it was almost like I just really wanted to replicate that pressure that we all have of like these uncles who are just staring at us. And then obviously the next one was much more beautiful. It was about like I taught all the young people how to shoot film on their phones, how to record sound using their headsets, to genuinely how with the first one, to genuinely document these stories. And now all of those stories are in the Museum of the Home archives, that then in 60 years' time, like one of our kids, if any of us have kids, will go to the archive and be like, oh, I want to hear what like the grandmas were saying in 2000s. That will always be there now. Yeah.
So how did you get into film then?
To be honest, it's a weird problem solution thing. I probably shouldn't have done it, but here we are. I was in Bangladesh doing the first trip, and I'd never been to Bangladesh, so for me this was I felt like a child in a sweet shop. I went to Ramna Park, which is like the biggest park in Bangladesh, to do Bangladesh New Year. And obviously, like the women in Bangladesh, they wear the flowers and they wear the jasmine flowers, all of that stuff. I didn't know that. I didn't understand the gender rules. So I just kind of was like, this is fab. Like I was like wearing everything. And I looked so queer. But then a group of trans women, they came up to the Hijra community, they came up and immediately started to rob me. And I was just like, and obviously I'm from East London, so obviously we were fighting. But then from that fight, obviously I like got my bag back because I had my passport and my money in it. And obviously then I was screaming. I was like, hey, just take this money. Because obviously I just wanted my passport back, to be honest. Like they could have taken the money. But then I came back and I started to listen and talk to other people, because I wanted to understand, how could somebody who obviously is queer look at somebody who's queer themselves and not see them as a place of refuge? So I was like, okay, cool. Then that's on me. So that's when I came back, started listening to Human Rights Watch, listened to the data and the stats, and that's where the film was born. Because I was like, I want to make something that will put people in the hearts of the Hijra people, not just tell you about what their lives are like, not just tell you about how we all know they do sex, or we all know they do these things and they clap and they do. But behind all of that, there are people. And that's that's the premise of the film, is to show you the people. They fall in love just like us. They are yearning for a mum's hug just like us. They're like doing all of those things. And that's where the film was born. Initially, it was a short, and then COVID happened, and then I became really good friends with them all. So then I was like, okay, cool, we have to go back. Then we kept shooting, and now we're finally in post-production. I'm really glad to say, so we've just been picked up by a production company in LA called Hillman Grad, which is run by Lena Waith and Rishi Rajni. And then Alok, who's a queer writer. They're also an EP on the project. And it was just and it's growing. Faraz from Bollywood is also on the project. And I had no idea it was going to grow this big, but I think it's because my intention was always to make people sit in the feet of Hijra women and feel what it's like to have genuine sisterhood, genuine community, because they've built that because they've had to. Nobody else has told that they have to, otherwise they won't survive. But I just want, that was the premise of it. I just want people to see them as human. My aim is to take it back to Bangladesh, to make the film and obviously do all of the stuff, get it on streamers and stuff like that, but to do screenings in Bangladesh, because I just imagined having this film screening, the 4 Hijra girls are on stage and we're just it's for them, applaud, make them famous, it's not even about me.
I love that. And on being queer and trans and all of that, What's it like? Because you've been here and you've been in Bangladesh. Like, what's it like? Compared to like here and there.
I know. I'd say they're a lot more vivacious, and I'm learning from that. Like I was talking to somebody about this earlier. I was just like, I remember when I came out, I was just like so sheepish. I was like, oh my god, am I Bengali? Am I British? Da, da. And it was just like these were like such small things. I was like, oh my god, my mom, all of this stuff. And then I went there, and I was like, oh my god, these were like the strength that somebody needs to have and build. And obviously, it's that whole idea. Obviously, I know I was talking about like good things are born in like rough places, but it just proved to me, I was like, I'm really looking at this way too small. So then I came back from making that film, and I was like, okay, I've just got to be like them. And every day I just like try to be more like them, because it's just being formidable, just being able to show up, be audacious. Like, who the fuck cares? Like, show up and show out. And they do that every single day, and that's all I'm trying to do here. And that's why the queer community here, I think and obviously we're a lot closer to home, so it's slightly different, but I think we're very cautious. But I think great moves of society and revolutions don't happen by being cautious. So we need to be more like them. And obviously, not everyone has the capacity to do that, but like the ones who can should. We should be loud. We should be fucking weird and loud everywhere. Because otherwise, it's not going to change. Otherwise, we're going to be this like we're going to stay in our little safe spaces, in our echo chambers, and no one's going to know about us. But people, which is really fab to see, because it's the young people in Bangladesh who give me so much hope. The older generation of queerness, like they are very, because a lot of stuff has happened in Bangladesh. There was a murder, Zul House was murdered on the streets, like, and it's like, so a lot of people retracted back into the closet as they had to for safety. But now, after this revolution that's just happened in Bangladesh, I'm telling you, the fucking energy in Bangladesh is something else. I tell you, the young people do not give a shit. Like, and I love it. Because obviously the students took over. Like, this is it. This is now the young people's country. No one's telling them nothing. Like I went and just did Arca Fashion Week at Bangladesh, and that was when I saw it. I was like, oh my god, these kids are like out. Like I was like, they're with the uncles, and she's in a miniskirt. I was like, and I felt myself having this like weird uncle conversation in my head. I was like, why are you thinking about she's got a skirt? And I was like, no, I've got to be. And I was like, no, I've got to be more like them. Like that's the future, and that's what I loved. And I was like, they're literally walking around like in Dunmonde, like in the bottom half, which is actually a little bit more conservative than like the high bit. But it's just like they were there, like, and I was like, fab. I was like, that's what. And obviously we're seeing pockets of it here, but they're doing it everywhere. Like they're like, it's like imagine walking through Brick Lane looking like an absolute fucking South Asian baddie without flinching. Like they're not flinching. Like and that's what I love. And hopefully we're going to be more like that.
Yeah.
Well, I'm trying to be more like them.
No, I love that. So I want to end with one question
and then open up for any questions the audience has. So, what does success mean to you, and how do you kind of redefine success?
See, for me, because it's like, so everyone looks at the stuff that I've done and think it's successful. I don't feel successful. It's so weird. I know I'm sat here and I'm trying to give everyone a talk about it. It's like, I don't feel like I've done enough. And I think I'm so scared of the day when I'm going to sit in front of my body of work and think I've done enough, because then I'm never going to get better. I'm never going to get stronger. I'm never going to get bigger. I'm never going to go bolder. And for me, that's what success feels like. For me, success is being able to keep driving forward with every fucking absurd thing that happens in your life, but just go, no, I'm committed to this goal. And obviously my goals are very much around like craftsmanship, decolonizing the spaces, film, all of that stuff, but it's embedded in that. And for me, that success is being unwaveringly committed to one goal. And that's our collective like liberation in every facet of society that we live in. That for me is what success feels like. And to be honest, for me, when I feel really successful is when a very young person who has no idea of what I've done before, and I have a conversation with them and I change their mind about how they see themselves. That for me feels like success. And then seeing that young person grow, that's success. Because that gives me hope. Like, we can change each other, but we're going to be like the uncles. Like, it's the young people. We've got to keep feeding this down. Otherwise, it sits with us and it ends with us.
It's really amazing to listen here as a native Tower Hamlets girl. And I think a lot of things you said just kind of touches on my own history and background. I have a question, actually, because I see a lot of artists from, like, British artists go back to their home country and get in touch with local artisans to create, like, furniture or art. And you said yourself you went to Bangladesh for the first time when you were 28. Same. And then I just want to ask, how was your Sylheti? How was the language barrier? How was it to communicate with these people and translate these complicated. I don't know if they even know where you're coming from or what you're trying to do. Like, did you need a translator? Did you need family members? Because that's something that stopped me. Like, I wouldn't, and also being a girl, like, I'm scared to travel alone in Bangladesh. But I would be kind of frightened to approach these men with these ideas. Translate is not that great, so that's what I think about. Yeah.
I mean, my facility is worse, and like so, like I could barely speak. I'm getting better now because obviously I just had to go back, but they understand it quite well. And to be honest, and I was quite surprised, and this is again my own colonial thinking. I was quite surprised of how many people spoke English. Everybody fucking spoke English to me.
That's
no matter how
great.
broken it was, we found a medium from my broken Bangla to their broken English. That was the medium, and it worked. Like to be honest, most of it, and I was quite lucky because and especially if you're going to go back and work with artisans, because it's physical. That's a whole nother language which I would just lean on. Like your body is a language, and I would just like showing them stuff, drawing stuff is the best way forward, and that's how I kind of like managed around it. But to be honest, my Bangla's getting better every day. I'm learning how to speak like, and obviously Sylheti is like, I found they were like, ain't nobody speaks Sylheti here, but they understand it. But obviously, so I'm trying to learn Shuddha. So every now and then when I speak to someone, they're like, what? That's such a weird mashup of like Sylheti and Shuddha.
Did you go back to Sylhet or Dhaga for the art?
Only to Dhaga.
Okay, that
I
makes
wouldn't.
sense.
Yeah, Sylhet I would have gone
more-
to if my family like, but fuck them.
Okay, fair enough. Right, I can speak to you more later.
Oh, yeah,
more
no.
questions, so I'll give someone else a chance.
Hi, thank you for the talk. I haven't really formulated the question properly yet, but I guess I wanted to ask about working with Hijras and kind of like how do you approach this kind of East meets West, this kind of like trans identity, also like the oppression of trans people at the moment, you know, like the restriction of puberty blockers in the UK recently with fucking West, whatever. And then also going back and kind of like seeing the kind of core and history of the culture of transness as we know it now. And how do you approach this and how do you find, I don't know, ways to work with it also coming from London and
I mean, like, I'll start with the way that you ended. Like, obviously, I'm from London. I'm a cis gay man. Like, I'm not from that lived experience at all. But which is why it was so important for me, which I know doesn't usually happen in film. And obviously, I love an NGO and I love a charity. So, like, I went and found two charities. One is a grassroots charity called Shompoko Noya Setu, run by an incredible activist called Joya Sikder, who's a trans activist, has Bangladesh on lock. Like, she knows every Hijra girl in Bangladesh. Pretty much, and she's incredible. And then another organization called Bandhu Welfare Society, who work much more in like a legislative space. They're really, and obviously right now it's really screwed because it's US aid is gone, like all this other stuff. Like there's different complications, but they were our two guiding lights in it. Like to be honest, I just knew I wanted to show their story, and through their work and the research that I learned, that's when I understood the lens of what the film was going to look like. Because obviously everything that you spoke about, to be honest, we understand that. But like, I didn't want to add that to the film. It was about their genuine experience because I think a lot of the Hijra women there, they understand Hijra culture because it's a culture. It's not like it isn't an identity in the way that we call like they call themselves transgender Hijra women. Not all of them. Some of them actually don't even like the calling themselves transgender because it's like I'm not doing that Western shit. But like they all call themselves Hijra. And actually, what is really phenomenal is that now because of all the NGO work there, they're really understanding about what non-binary means, what all of these other, and there's a lot of queer kids coming out in the Hijra community who are not, because usually it's in a very educated, high privilege, 1% society, South Asia thing that are all usually non-binary. These are like street gully kids who are like non-binary, and I loved that. And to be honest, premise of the next film, but that's where I learned the most. Like to be honest, it was just sitting with them. Like, and to be honest, that's when the film really was built. Like all I wanted to do was spend time with them and sit really close with them. Like really, like have dinner. To be honest, before even a camera came out, which is why I love the way I've done this film in comparison to there's so many other Hijra films. I critique them the fuck out because some of them are not good. There's one on Channel 4, don't even waste your time. But it was it's because I went and sat with them and I understood what they were trying to do. I met their parents and obviously and I ate with them. And it was before even a camera came out. It was just to understand, because obviously I met about 25 different Hijra girls who wanted to be on film. And then of them, we chose 4 who were charismatic enough to carry a story. And they're the guiding lights in the story. 3 of them know each other, 1 of them doesn't. But we did it for that reason because it's quite harrowing. Like a lot of the Hijra girls just go missing and nobody knows because they're undocumented people. And it's a really really horrible space right now for Hijra girls, because it's much better in India, because obviously there's a lot more funding right now. But in Bangladesh, after what's happening, US aid, I know what's happening with Trump. It's just once he's taken that away, it's just, which is what I'm hoping the film's going to do. The film, like, there's 2 lines in our budget, and it's going straight to those charities, because it should sustain them and to the 4 girls. But yeah, so I don't know if that answered your question. I just kind of rambled about the film.
It does, and it also what you said about the difference between culture and identity. I think it's something that we can like learn from a lot. I think it's a great thing that you said.
Yeah, no, because like for them, the Hijra community is just is like, it's like when you go to a queer club in London, it's just a mixed bag of everyone. That's the Hijra community. Like a Hijra community is like, there'll be a very femme gay guy to a trans woman to a trans man to a non-binary young kid. Like they're all in one room together calling each other Hijra, and clapping for each other. And I think that's what's lovely, because and obviously, and I know where language and education, like, but I think a lot of the times that can create divides and like create different intersections, which are important, but not enough to exclude us from each other. And I think what's lovely about the Hijra community, which I hope a lot of people will learn from that film, is that we need to come back together. Once we go away into our safe spaces where we're only in like a space where someone would only understand our lived experience, come back to a collective, is what I really love seeing. And I hope that we should do more of that.
No, definitely. Thank you.
No, thank you. That was a great question there.
So you've worked on London Fashion Week, and now you're entering into film now, so a completely different industry. My question is, with future work that you do and future projects that you do you have this element of pressure because you're entered into these rooms as a brown man? Do you have this pressure with every piece of work that you do or every project that you work on that could then lead to future, or for us, to have the opportunity to then get into these rooms long term?
Yeah, no, I completely feel that pressure every single time I make a body of work anywhere. But I think for me, I have built myself up to be strong enough because of the people around me to take on that responsibility. Because for me, I see myself, again, I hate using this word, but it's the only word, like as a conduit. Like for me, I'm like, when somebody opens a door for me, like even whether they're Salvation or not, as soon as they've opened the door for me, my foot's in there, I'm trying to ram as many people in there as possible. And I do that with everything that I've done. And I think because it can't end with me. And I think that's where it is, and the reason why I make the work is to open a door. And that's why I've kind of like wavered across all these different things. I started with fashion, wanting to kind of make a staple, make a name so that then I could open a door, and I have. And then I went into film, and now hopefully, inshallah, one day I'm going to open that door. But that's to be told. But also in education, same, in fine art, like doing these like art like projects, that was also the same. Because it was about, I just see so many people who, we hold each other up all the time, a lot of the times for free, and a lot of times just for the sake of community. But I think it's all of our roles to make sure that when one of us is successful, that money trickles back down to everyone who helped you come all the way up here. Or like, I don't know, like, but that's exactly how I say it. I was like, everyone who's helped me along this way, my God, like they're still in all of my projects. I still work with them to this day. Every now and then I work with somebody different, but they're still part of the core team. And yeah, because I was like, if someone puts me on, I'm putting everybody else on. Otherwise, what's the point? But yeah, every body of work is always going to open a door for me.
I just want to know, do you have a date when this film is going to be released? Like, I want to put it in my diary so then I can follow up, because sometimes it just gets lost.
Not yet, but it's in post right now. Okay. So then hopefully the aim is to go to film festivals in 2026, because obviously they all happen in the first half of the year. Yeah. And we're just building up that program because it can't fail. Because for me, this is like, the reason why it can't fail is because like I was saying, like the people I'm trying to help are lines in our budget. The more money this film makes, the more money these people get. Yeah. And obviously, I understand. Obviously, anyone who's in film will also know like there's all this other money stuff like EPs. I'm learning about it, and oh my God, fucking hell, film is so expensive. But apparently, all these people need to get paid. So like obviously, once all those like high uppity people need to get paid, then from it, and obviously myself and the other person who's directing it with me, both of us are also giving a percentage of our money to two other charities who are slightly smaller than these two organizations, but they need help. One is called Drick Gallery in Bangladesh, who's an incredible gallery, works with only queer South Asian artists, and the other one is a Hijra, transgender, specifically tried because they're trying to really uplift this identity of being transgender rather than Hijra, but education around sexual health. But those would be the other two organizations. But yeah, that's the aim, hopefully.
This has been incredible.
Oh, thank you.
you touched on money and budget a couple times, and I just wondered if you could maybe demystify a bit, like how the breakdown of your income works. Maybe not exactly what you make, but like how much do you get from fashion or other things? How does that actually work in practice to support your lifestyle?
To be honest, at the moment, fashion makes me fuck all. Being dead ass, but it did before, because obviously I haven't made anything since that last collection, which went to the V&A. But to be honest, I took a hiatus because I finished that collection. I just wasn't sure what the aim was, because it was that whole, I had an ambition of getting it all into the museums, and that was the aim of like decolonizing that space within museums that I was referencing. So once I did it, I was like, that fire went. I was like, okay, so and obviously now I have another challenge, and there's something else going to come out soon. But to be honest, fashion is that doesn't make me money. To be honest, it's all the commissioned art projects, and every now and then the educational programs, talks, and obviously my job at St. Martin's. That's what keeps me going. But the aim is to kind of go back into it, because I think I took a step out. Because to be honest, it was just getting a bit too much. Like, I wasn't used to talking to people, like especially about my work and being on such a public platform. But now I've got comfortable into it, and I'm just like, okay, cool. Now you've got another aim, and it's that thing of I've realized how many people, which I didn't do before, which is quite wild. How many people were looking up to me, which I'm still. It still makes me, like, even though you're probably watching me blush, but just like, because it still makes me feel weird. But I just realized that's a really big responsibility. So I've got to go back into to make sure it's financially successful, to make sure that I can give back to the people. Because my business system for the brand was to work with the artisans in Bangladesh who were still getting paid, and a women's program in East London who do the production. So it's this conversation of like craft in Bangladesh and then craft in the UK. So that's, I'm coming back. But yeah, no, it's one of those, I would say, right now, the creative industry is harsh. Like in London specifically, is harsh. Where you can get your money and make sure you spread it out and give back to other people. But that's, but I would say it's not the best right now, but it can get better.
So bringing you back to your teenagehood, you're an East London boy. How did you move through spaces in, would you say, Stepney Green Boys School, to your youth club, learning textiles, and being of a Bangladeshi, I assume Muslim background as well. So how did you move between all these different spaces and identity during your teenagehood? And how did you navigate all those spaces? Were you the same person? Did you have to do you get what I mean?
Yeah, no, I mean, to be honest, you ended it with exactly what my answer is. That is that at the time, and to be honest, and this is something I'm still working out with my therapist, but just like I had to play different characters and in order to survive. And I respect and love every single character that I became, and because they became a part of who I am now. But I'm now critiquing, and obviously there was which to be honest, that was one of the reasons why I stopped. It just got way too much, because I forgot who I was. I was like, who am I performing as now? Like, is this real? And I was, that's where I kind of like lost myself, but that's how I survived. Like when I was in secondary school, I was trying to be like a bad boy. Even saying bad boy obviously makes me, but like, and obviously like anyone who's been to like Stepney Green School, like even as I'm saying, I was like, I sound like bad boy. Like, I was like, but like, because I'm definitely not, but anyone who knew me then, it was hella convincing. Like it was convincing. And it's funny because I look back, because obviously at the time, phones were still like just coming about. Like the idea of actually young people having phones was just coming about. And there's videos on my computer of like me with all these boys on Eid in a car, like driving. And I'm just like, and obviously I look back at it and I'm like, what was I doing? And then obviously like even when I was in college, even though I was studying fashion and like at BTEC, I was still going to the house parties. I came out when I was 25, but like I was playing straight for a long time and it worked. I had a girlfriend for a long time who I'm now friends with, and she's married. She's sorted her life out and we're good. She has cats, doesn't want kids. I've scarred her, but like, but to be honest, it's all those things. Like I had to just play those characters. Even when I went to St. Martin's, I thought I initially, just after, while I was there, just after I came out, I thought I had to play this like very whitewashed queer person. I was like trying to be a fucking twink. I don't know why. I was like, was shaving my beard. Imagine I had to like quiff and everything. But it's just like all of those people that I had to become form who I am today. And even now, I'm still kind of like, where does it start and where does it stop? But to answer a long-winded answer, but yeah, I just played a lot of different people and the book is pending.
Thank you very much. I think all of those were really, really wonderful questions.
Thank you, honestly. Thank you to you, Sarith, for organising all of this. You've been phenomenal. What you are doing with Dhaga Arts And I will say, because I usually don't say a lot of yeses to people when they ask me stuff, but it had to be a yes for Dhaga because you're doing phenomenal movements for South Asian people. And I want you to understand that you are going to change the UK scene because of your perseverance. So thank you for having me as well.
Oh, that's really kind. Thank you.